breaking down friendship sports. This is the Tigers Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Good Wednesday evening and welcome into the High School Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. We've got three teams to talk to tonight to finish up the week, and we're going to start as usual on Wednesday with the Tiger Fan Zone. If you're watching on TV, you see that's not Jay Northcutt. That is Mark Ribaudo, his defensive right-hand man. He's got a lot of right-hand men because he's got Caleb, who's still there but has moved on. Chris Finelli, who my wife sort of got to meet halfway one night. She sat right next to, on the other side of the glass from him at the Lubbock Cooper game.
God bless her.
Coach is going to know exactly where I'm going with that. In fact, I got a text message from Caleb, who went to high school with my wife later that night, and said, "Please tell your sweet wife that wasn't me that was using that language." And senior, Hud Simpson, who you're one of the guys that seems like you've been around for about 8 years. Every time I go back to find a story, there's Hud doing something.
Sir, just a little bit.
You've been around. How long has this dude been starting for you on defense?
2 years. 2 years.
But even as a sophomore, he was doing some stuff, wasn't he?
He made a splash.
Well, we're going to talk about last week because that was huge for you guys. I'm going to make sure I get it right. 51-48 on the road at Midland Legacy. I think Jay told me earlier this week that's the first time you guys have won down there since this staff's been together.
Correct. Yes.
So that's always a big deal when you can get the first anything.
Yeah.
But it's also big just because you're beating Midland Legacy. If you played them on Mars and beat them, that's a big win because
absolutely
they've carried the banner for your district for years and years.
Mm-hmm. 5 years straight they've had a piece of the championship or outright.
And Coach Hartman likes to make sure people know that.
Yeah, he does. And it's hard to win down there. 2019 we were up 21-0, 28-0, and they came storming back with Serrano's older brother.
Yeah.
And got us. And that was a heartbreaker.
Last year you guys had a lead, if I remember right.
We did, and it came down to the last drive, and they scored on like a third and long, and we were all over them. Mm-hmm. But they came up with a circus catch and won the game, and it was a heartbreaker.
Here, hold that microphone a little bit closer before I get in trouble.
There we go.
My producer,
good.
The young producer mad at me. He's going to come in here and get after.
Don't want that.
And Hud, when you talk, hold yours up there close too.
Yes, sir.
Hud, the 2 years now? They moved the ball the other day. They ran the ball very well, but when Jay and I talk about this with Midland Legacy, there are a couple teams around here that when they get off the bus, it doesn't matter who you are. You look at them, you go, those guys are going to be pretty good. You guys, you're high school guys. You can kind of identify when a team looks the part. Mm-hmm. Beating them, how big a deal was that for you guys to get over that hump down there, but also to get to 2-0 in district?
That's huge. I mean, now I feel like everybody's striving for us, trying to be who we are, going for that number one stop. Yeah, for sure. And so, especially beating the two Midland teams, that's huge. And then so it was a good start to district, and we just got to keep it rolling.
In fact, somebody in the press box said you guys are actually the Midland City champions because you also beat Midland Christian, which is a really good. Talk about deceiving records. Mm-hmm. That's a really good TAPS team.
Oh, yeah. Always has been.
Yeah.
They've been a powerhouse for many, many years.
And they're now in the same district with Trinity Christian. I was talking to their coach, Riley White, who they've not gotten off to the best start in their district. And Midland Christian's waiting for them down the road. They're just trying to get healthy. But he's like, yeah, we'll probably be okay for the next couple of weeks. Then we've got I think they go to Midland. Mm-hmm. You guys, that's a cool environment they have there, too, for a little – I say a little cool, a smaller private school. It's pretty electric. It's very noisy.
Oh yeah, they've done a good job. They built that stadium where it's very compact and it goes straight up. It's a little bowl type situation, and they really support that football team. They always have. You go down there and play, you got to get ready.
See, this won't resonate much with HUD, but I actually worked very briefly in Midland after I worked here for 6 years. Went down. I was getting the lay of the land. I knew John Parchman. I covered Lee, so I met him. Craig Yenger's the Midland High coach. I don't remember who the Midland Christian coach was, but then they took me over to Midland Trinity, and they said, they've got this first-year coach. And I said, oh, yeah, who is it? It's a guy named John Wilkins. If you've ever seen Friday Night Lights, the movie.
The movie?
Yeah,
I've seen
or if you read the book, John Wilkins was the Odessa Permian coach before Gary Gaines. So he had some skins on the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
So they had some coaches down there, but they still got some great coaches down there.
They do. They did a great job. That was a really, really good game plan. They changed everything for us. caught us, totally by surprise, and we were scrambling that whole game defensively to try and stop that formation, which in 40 years of football I've never seen that. So
wow.
It's kind of interesting. Coach, I've got some older coaches that have a lot of experience, and we were racking our brains. We finally got it at the very end, thank God.
Probably maybe a few weeks past, you're like, yeah, that's kind of cool. I've never seen that in 40 years. But probably for those 3 hours, you're like, dang, I've never seen this.
I know. It was, Coach Robinson and I would get on that board in between every series, and we would just draw up everything we could. Because with 4 backs in the backfield, and they're all blockers, it was kind of like the single wing. We eventually kind of shifted over like we were playing the single wing. It almost looked like the old Notre Dame box when they used to shift it back in Newt Rockney's day. They'd shift all their backs just like they did, and then run a power right at you. It was crazy.
I think Newt Rockney's even older than Coach and I. He's not with us anymore, but he would have been a lot older than Coach and I. So, but that game, I want to make sure I have the math right, Jay, and I talk about this regularly. That's the 7th game in the last 2 seasons you guys have been involved in that's been decided by 3 points or fewer, and you've won 6 of them. So, it's tough as a coach to be sitting there. I'll get Hud when we come back after the break. I'll get Hud to talk about what it's like for a player. But when you get to the end and you win those close games, you can exhale. That's got to be pretty satisfying.
Oh, it is. It's terrific when you win them. It's terrific, and we've been on the top end, thank God, most of the time. In those games, it's just our offense is so explosive. Yeah, you always have that feeling. I do, at least. Hey, they're going to score. They're going to score. We just need to get a couple of key stops. We need to get a turnover. We need to get something. And this defense, these kids they don't stop playing. They don't stop hitting. So I'm always waiting for something good to happen.
Yep. We'll talk a little bit more about that because I want Hud to give me his perspective. The Tigers are at home Friday night at People's Bank Stadium against Odessa High. That's on Double T 97.3 FM with Keith Patrick, Paul Tubbs, David Collier, and I think that's the entire crew. Pre-game at 6:30, Double T 97.3 FM. We'll go through the full schedule at some point tonight since we're last show of the week. This is Randy Rosetta. This is the Tiger Fan Zone. We'll be back on 100.7 The Score after the break.
Bringing you the latest news from Friendship Athletics. This is the Tiger Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. I am Randy Rosetta. I'm with Mark Ribaudo, the Friendship Defensive Coordinator. Have you been with Jay the whole time?
I have.
So 8 or 9 years?
This is our 8th year.
Okay. It's Chris Softly at Lubbock Christian that's been there 9 years, then Jay, and then I think Chip's next at 7. So you guys are all stacked up there.
Right.
So when I got back to Lubbock, I worked at the AJ from 97 to 2003, met a girl from Plainview that went to high school with Jay and Caleb, dragged her away to Baton Rouge, Louisiana for 14 years, took my in-law's only granddaughter as well.
Oh, boy.
My father-in-law, rest his soul, he forgave me. It took a while, but you go to Baton Rouge and eat a little bit of gumbo and jambalaya, it soothes it a little bit. But when I got back, we were looking at the landscape when I was thinking about launching my website. We looked around, and my wife said, "Oh, Jay's the football coach at Friendship." So I said, "Yeah, I'm going to look into that." That first year, you guys didn't have a lot of fun. Let's just put it that way.
We had no fun. No fun whatsoever. Kids were great.
Yep.
The football wasn't very fun.
No, and I remember meeting Jay shortly after that. We were just talking about this. The first time I ever saw you guys play was against Midland Lee at the time, when you had to start a freshman quarterback, and that poor little kid was maybe 150 pounds, and that Midland Lee team was, again, a get-off-the-bus team, and that poor little man ran for his life for 48 minutes.
Yeah, Midland put 70 on us, too. I haven't forgot that either.
Yep. Well, things have changed
because
you guys are headed towards another really memorable season after the last couple have already been there. This guy's been a part of them. Hud, were you a Friendship? I know your dad. I didn't know I knew your dad until we connected. He was with Butch Henderson for a long time, who's one of my favorite people on earth.
Yes, sir.
So you've been around Lubbock for a long time. Have you been in the Friendship system the whole time, or are you one of those lifers?
So I went to Cooper till 5th grade.
And you've got connections all over the place.
So I lived in Cooper District. My mom was a teacher at Cooper West, I believe. And so I went there, and then Dad got the job at Friendship, and so that's why I made the move. So I've been in Friendship since my fifth grade year.
Okay, so you've got a lot of background there because I know Holden's been there from day one. That's what's cool about Friendship is you have kids who start their first day at kindergarten. By the time you get there, they're immersed in that blue and gold.
Yes, they are.
So, Hud, what's it been like the last few years for you guys to be on this run that you guys have been on? And the season's been different. Last year, I'll ask Jay when we're both old and gray if last year is not one of his favorite years because you guys did the opposite. You started 0-2 in district and had to put on your gloves and come out of the corner fighting, and you did.
For sure.
It's a little bit different now, and you kind of mentioned it. Now you guys are the team people are coming after. But what's it been like to be a part of this the last few years?
It's been awesome. I'll remember this for the rest of my life. The chemistry I had with these guys, and it's gonna be hard leaving, but a lot of close games, like you said earlier. And it's been really cool to come out on top on a lot of them, and so it's just been really cool.
So I was on the 0-10 team. I'm trying to think if we won 3 or 4 games my high school career up in Kansas. We had teams very much like that. So my memories were not quite the same. We were a basketball school. I would think it's almost more cool to be part of a team that does have these gut-wrenching wins than just blowing people out. It might be better for coaches if you're beating people 35-0, but you're going to remember these games.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been really cool. And at the end of the day, I think that's when we grow closer together because we got to really put trust in one another and just say, I believe you can do this. And that's been Rib's motto every day before film, where he's like, you got to believe in this, what we're doing. You got to trust in your teammates. So, and it's merged into our character almost.
And what's his main defensive motto?
Hit.
Well, there's another one that he's got.
Think turnover.
On the Mercury out there.
Think turnover.
On the mark.
So I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping the mutton chops would be a little bit longer still, but
I change my look every once in a while, Brandy. I'm kind of on the lam from some people, and I've stayed here a little too long in Lubbock. So, if I'm not going to move, I got to change my look. I can't get.
I go to my barber, Jerry's barber shop, and I always say, okay, I got to look a little bit different this month, just in case.
In case.
We're going to talk more, not about barbers and mutton chops, but about football when we come back, because these guys have a big game and a chance to nail down a playoff spot and maybe take another big step towards something. I'm going to ask in between the break here. I want to get my facts straight before I throw it out there. Friendship is at home against Odessa High Friday night, 7 p.m. at People's Bank Stadium on Double T 97.3 FM. We'll be back to talk more Tiger Fan Zone and Friendship football after this break.
Breaking down Friendship sports. This is the Tigers Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Tiger Fan Zone. I've got my information I was after. Friendship is 2-0 in district. They go into their next test, which is Odessa High. If they can take care of business, that they're going to claim a playoff spot. It's just the way it works in 16 districts. You start stacking them up. But Mark Ribaudo verified what I thought. Friendship has never won the outright district championship. You've tied for it. You've been in the hunt. You've had great seasons. And I know with 4 teams going to the playoffs, a lot of people may not think winning a district championship, winning that district is a big deal. And you talked about it. Yeah. It used to be the little Southwest Conference. It's changed. Friendship's the new kid on the block even 9 years later. I want both of you to talk about that. And I'm not trying to put the bull before the horse, but that's got to be something that you want your guys to think about. I mean, you got to go 1 week at a time. Coach is a cliche, but that's got to be something you want them to kind of look up and see.
Oh, absolutely. I've told the guys many times going into this season, if somebody wins this district outright, you are a salty football team. You have been through some wars. You've been through 5 wars, and you should be able to go into the playoffs and not fear many teams. Because I know a lot of people get hung up on Dallas. You can only go so far, and then you're going to run into a Dallas team. You come out of this district as the outright champ, and you could go head-to-head with anybody. Then it's just going to come down to who executes better. You don't have to go and going, oh, my God, look at those kids. Because you say that every week when your opponent gets off the bus,
right?
When Lee gets off the bus, when Permian gets off the bus, for God's sake, So if you're the outright champ here, you're a good outfit. You don't have to fear anybody. You just have to improve on yourself. You have to beat yourself. Keep competing with yourself.
All right, Hud, you're a coach's kid. You've been around football all your life, so you've been drilled into you. Don't think ahead, but. Same thing that I just asked Coach. Now that you guys are 2-0, can you kind of put that mind, at least in the back of your mind, and let the idea kind of marinate back there?
Well, yeah. I mean, the idea has been there since the beginning of the season. Coach Frey's, he does team speeches sometimes for, every Wednesday, every Friday. And first thing he says is turn to your right and tell the person next to you, good morning, district champion. And so the idea's been there, and we certainly can't take our foot off the pedal since we're 2-0. We gotta keep going.
And the fact is, you have basketball teams that have done it. You've got baseball teams, softball teams. You got I think last year Stephanie Short's last track team, I believe.
Oh yeah,
won a district championship. So it's been done with your school. Mm-hmm. Now it's time for you guys to add that on. Now we'll talk about one more thing that's time to do. 2 years in a row, South Lake Carroll. Now, I don't know where South Lake Carroll is sitting out there. Because of the separation, you guys kind of have an idea if you get to the playoffs, we're going to be here. You made progress. And Jay, coming from the Metroplex, has seen those. We've talked about you have to see it. You have to kind of get a feel for it and understand it. Hud, what have you learned the last 2 years against South Lake Carroll? And I am putting the cart before the horse here a little bit because I'm confident you guys get into the playoffs. So
yes,
I'm even confident in you guys winning the first round and getting that chance. So if you see them again, or if you see somebody similar to them, what have you learned from these 2 years?
Yeah, South Lake's a great team. I mean, they're very well coached, and they're definitely a tough team. But I mean, I've learned more about our team than I've learned about South Lake, and South Lake's going to be there, and it's going to be no challenge. It's going to be a dogfight. I mean, we've been in a lot of dogfights, and it's just how it is. It's football.
Mark, you've been out here for 40 years, like you said. You've seen teams that have Lubbock Cooper's figured it out at their level. Had Aledo beat a few years ago. Kind of gotten taken away from him by those guys in stripes. Kelly Robinson, I'm sorry, I'm bringing it up. But and then the last couple of years they've played. Now they've also ran at South Oak Cliff a few years ago and didn't come close. What does it take for a team like Friendship to get, when they get into those games with the South Lake Carroll, or if it's Byron Nelson or if it's whoever else, to get over that hump?
Well, first thing is you got to have really good football players, and we've had some very good football players in the last couple of years, some very, very good ones. But this year we've got some players that are real difference makers. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who's lining up across from us. It could be South Lake Carroll, it could be Katy, DeSoto, whoever. It's going to be hard to cover Leighton, Stone, yes, Chase Campbell, and Holden Phillips. That's going to be a chore. Coming from a defensive guy, you're going to be up all night, all week. So we got that going for us now. And our defense, we hit. We will hit. Sometimes we give up a yard or two here or there, but those guys are going to hit, and they're going to give everything they got. So we've got that. And this team's a little different. We're not going to be in awe because somebody's got a dragon on their helmet, yep, or somebody's got a big L on their helmet, says Midland Lee or whatnot, Legacy. So we've got kind of the makings. We just need to stay healthy. We need to keep moving forward, and we've got to get through these three wars. I'm telling you, Coach, if we get through these last three games, we're going to be a salty outfit. It's going to be, these are going to be three. We got to go to Permian after this Odessa High team comes in, and they're pretty good. And then we've got to go to Permian, and you don't just go down there and beat up on those cats. So we get out of this thing, we'll be all right.
And that gets started Friday night against Odessa High, 7 p.m. Friday at Peoples Bank Stadium. We'll be back after the break to talk to some folks from Lubbock Cooper.